fans. So, this video is going to be pretty damn bipolar. I have been working on this one for quite some time. In terms of up in my head, I don't have a lot of creative edits or anything like that. I didn't want to use film. I just wanted to use just some statistics at the back end of the video, and in the front end, just some things I've learned from watching the film. Now, when I say the video is going to be bipolar, even at the beginning of the video, I'm not quite sure if it's a pro or con video for Bobrovsky. I've got some good stuff, I've got some not so good stuff, but I think I have a workable solution, at least for the next 2 seasons. So, what do we got? The first thing is I watched a ton of film. I mean, like eyeballs coming out of my head film from Bobrovsky when he was lighting up with Columbus to when now he's not been playing great with Florida. And that's putting it nicely. Now, I went into it, full disclosure, I went into it looking to find a massive difference. I wanted to be able to come out here and say there's this huge disparity between how he's moved then versus how he's moving now. I can't quite do that. Now, I did notice a few differences. I can't guarantee that he's moving slower, and I wanted to look at the highlights and say it's obvious that he's moving slower. Maybe you could make a case where he's lost a quarter of a step, an eighth of a step. Whatever speed he's lost is negligible. However, the difference that I did see, one big difference that I definitely did see, was in his flexibility and how he's moving. During his time with Columbus, you saw a lot of times where he was just completely doing a split, and he was post to post with his skates and blocking shots that way. How many times do we see him post to post with skates and then blocking things with his glove? We had not seen that very much with Florida. Every once in a while, he's making those highlight saves. But the biggest difference I noticed in his movement is that the Bobrovsky in Columbus was able to keep those legs significantly spread and move side to side. Where now, if you notice, and this is where he's getting beat some of the times, what you'll notice now is if he's moving to the right, he's keeping that left leg sort of close to his body and pushing off and moving to the right and vice versa. So he doesn't have his legs spread out as much as he used to. I don't know if that's by design. I don't know if he's realized he's not 26 anymore and he's not as flexible, so he's tried to change his game. But we have seen him when he's sliding across the ice, that 5-hole is open and teams know it, and they're getting pucks through that 5-hole, even when it's a moving 5-hole. Now, I did see a few times in Columbus where he was using that same movement technique, but the difference was he had his stick on the ground to block the 5-hole. Not seeing him do that now in Florida, so that's another thing that I noticed. The biggest thing that I saw was there's 2 things here. Okay, first of all, frequency of high quality chances. Look, he starts his career at Philadelphia, was meh, okay? Then he goes to Columbus and they've got a really good defense. And I'm going to show you in the stats where I think things have kind of gone wrong a little bit. But clearly, Florida's lack of significant defense had an effect. Not so much this last season. This last season was pretty good. Not $10 million good, but good enough. But the season before, obviously, his first season with Florida was a disaster by any stretch of the imagination. So I think, and when I looked and I compared him to Drieger or tonight and Bob, when I looked, the biggest difference was that everything changes, okay? Because the styles between those 3 guys, Drieger is a stay-at-home guy. Knight doesn't move around as much, maybe a little bit more than Drieger, and Bobrovsky's just all over the place. And teams are catching on. He's not even losing 1/8 of his step, 1/4 of his step. He's not as flexible, not as agile as he was at 25, 26 when he won Vezina. Okay? So teams have figured that out. Look at what Tampa did in the playoffs. They designed plays to get Bobrovsky out of position. Now, it even worked with Drieger, so I'm not simply just saying that, this is just a Bob problem. But teams are designing their plays to adjust to how Bobrovsky is adjusted to his style. He's not moving the same way. The difference is negligible, but it's enough when you take into consideration his game was movement. His game was quickness and being able to be out of position and recover at ridiculous speed and make these highlight saves. Just the tiniest little bit of drop-off is going to have an effect, and I think that's part of what we're seeing. And in addition to that, clearly Florida gives up more high-quality chances than Columbus did. So you take in, he lost a quarter of a step, and add in Florida's defense, which is nowhere near as good as Columbus was during his prime, and you got what we had. Now, I wanted to get into a little bit of the statistics because I found some interesting things. I found a couple of fun things. I found some interesting things, and I found something that might be a workable solution, at least for the next 2 seasons, until it might start becoming time to think about, giving Spencer Knight the job and some money. The first thing is, I kind of wanted to point out how goalie numbers get inflated in terms of their importance. In other words, the numbers, I'm going to give you 3 numbers here, and I'm going to give you a 4th. And it's just incredible to me how tight things are when you think about things. So you got Bobrovsky, all right? We're going right to the numbers. You got Bobrovsky. His career save percentage is .916. Okay? You go to Andrei Vasilevsky. His career save percentage is .920. Better, but it's close, right? Now, I'm going to bring up James Reimer. Now, the reason why I bring up James Reimer is like the poster child for good backup, maybe could win you a few games as a starter type of goalie, right? Everybody likes him. You wouldn't mind having him as your backup, but at the same point, you don't want your season riding on him. So he's like the poster child for average NHL goalie in terms of what you think, right? Well, save percentage of .913. Only 3 percentage points off of Bobrovsky. And what I have over here written down is that Bobrovsky's save percentage of .916, if you take away his Vezina year, his save percentage goes down to .914, which means his save percentage, except for that one season, Bobrovsky and Reimer have almost the exact same save percentage. Now, I know Bobrovsky's played a lot more games and he's faced higher chances. That's not my point here. I'm not saying Bobrovsky is Reimer. I'm using it to illustrate how numbers can be skewed to show we know Bobrovsky's way better than Reimer, right? At least in, overall in his career. But yet if you look at the numbers, they're not all that different. There's not a huge disparity. So these little percentage points mean a lot more than we're given credence for. Now, I wanted to get into the next thing, and this is going to be the good news. This is where I think, based on history, where we might have an opportunity for Bobrovsky to have a couple of good years before we have to make any decisions. So, let's come up here to the top of Bobrovsky's stats. He has the first couple of years in Philly, not exactly knocking it out of the park. I want to point to right here where he played 29 games, okay? He didn't do so good, but the season after the 29 games, all right, he played 38 games, and had a 2.0 goals against that first year with Columbus. Okay. Following season, he played 58 games. Still pretty damn good at 2.38. But now here's where the pattern starts to present. 58 games. This is the most he's played. Okay? This is the most he's played. And I'll bring your attention on, in fact, all the way back up to the top to further prove the point. He had 54 games here played in his first season, 2.59. He played 54 games. The next year, he was nowhere near as good. All right? So let's jump down here to where he played 38 games, had a 2.0. The following season, he played 58 games and had a 2.38. Still pretty damn good. But now, after that 58 game season, his numbers go way down, 2.68. Now it's not good. It's not bad, but you're not smelling $10 million goalie with that. Okay? Then in 15-16, he only plays 37 games, and his numbers go down again, 2.75, because he's coming off of a season where he played 51 games. But this year he only plays 37 games. He comes into the next season rested and ready, and boom, that's the Vezina year. 2.06, coming off of his season where he only played 37 games. He's rested. His game is speed. His game is agility. If you wear somebody like that out, their numbers are going to go down. And here we go. So after the 37 games, he comes back the next year, wins the Vezina at 206, playing 63 games. And then we see his numbers go down, and his numbers go down, and his numbers go down. And each year, he's playing 63, 65, 62. The first year with Florida, 50 games. He's getting worse by the year. Now, last year, his numbers did get a little bit better, 2.91, but that's still not good. Okay, that's not good at all. However, the good news is he only played 31 games. Now, are you starting to see what I'm saying? Every year that he has only played 30-ish games, the following year he's done pretty damn spectacular. Every year that he's played 50 or more, his numbers go down, and they will just continue to go down the more games that he's playing. So, this is how Bobrovsky can have a good year. First of all, he's coming off of only playing 31 games, so he's going to be rested. He's going to be ready as his 32-year-old body can be. Split these games between Knight and Bobrovsky. There's no need to wear Bobrovsky out. There's no need to send Knight out there to play 62 games either. He's not ready for that. He's too young. So, I propose that Bobrovsky could have a really good year, especially this year, only playing the 40, 42 games and giving Knight the rest of the games. If history proves to be true, every time he's come and played, 29, 38, 37 games, those years he improved. As soon as he starts playing 50 and 60 games, the next year he does worse and worse and worse. Now, what do we do in the playoffs? And here is where the big kicker is, because if you're splitting games and the numbers are even, let's fast forward to the end of the season, and Bob and Knight have played 42 games, and their numbers are pretty damn comparable. We're comfortable with either guy. So, let's bring you to Andrei Vasilevsky. Andrei Vasilevsky, here we go, in his career, has played 81 playoff games and has a 2.24 goals against and a 924 save percentage. That's why Tampa Bay has 2 cups, all right? Those numbers are ridiculously good. 2.24. I'm going to say it again. 2.24. Why do I stress that? Let's go to Bobrovsky. Let's go to Bobrovsky's playoff numbers. That is 3.24 goals against in 41 games. 3.24 and an .99 save percentage. Bobrovsky at this point in his career is a 42 game 1A, 1B, but not your playoff goalie. And we talked about this, Stu and I talked about this with Billy Lindsay in the last interview. If you want to win the cup, you got to pick one goaltender and ride him. And that one goaltender, if things are even remotely close to even, is Spencer Knight. All due respect to Bobrovsky, I get it. The guy has bounced around. This is his third team. He wasn't used to our style of defense. He's not getting any younger, and his game is speed. And I think this past season he did make some decent adjustments to where the numbers were palatable, not close to Driedger's. Not close to Driedger's. So the bottom line here is that we've got Bobrovsky for at a minimum of 2 more seasons. Okay? Spencer Knight will eventually need a contract. But one thing that's going to help us, and this, I don't like putting it this way because this is going to kind of sound like I'm slighting Spencer Knight. But the cap being what it is, if Knight splits with Bob these next 2 years, when it comes time for Knight to get a new deal, he's not going to get Vasilevsky money because even though if he's worth it, he will not have had the opportunity to be the full-time starter and prove that he's worth it. So working it this way will probably allow us to give Knight less money when it's time to extend him, which will allow us, if we can move Bobrovsky, to split his salary with somebody. And then when that hit comes off, you give Spencer Knight the big Vasilevsky deal. Now, that might seem like a far-fetched way, but, I guarantee you the team has already looked at all these angles and is looking at things. The encouraging thing for me is twofold. Number one, Bobrovsky has done exceptionally well coming off of seasons where he's only played 30-ish games. So I anticipate him going back to, he's not going to go back, okay, look, he's not going to go back to 206. He's not going to go back to Vezina Bob. Can he go back to what he was his last year in Columbus with a .913 save percentage and a 2.5? Give me that. This Panther team with this offense, we can win a lot of games with a .913 and a 2.58. Just don't ice him during the playoffs. He has proven how many seasons? Let's look at that into depth here. Let me go to his playoff stats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tries. He's had 8 tries if you count the play-ins with the Panthers. He's had 8 tries in it, and he's won 1 round, and that was the year that he beat Tampa. And it wasn't like Tampa still scored 8 goals in the 4 games, which isn't bad, isn't great, but it wasn't, Columbus was scoring a lot of goals is what I mean to say. Columbus was scoring some goals in that series. But other than that, what is the stat that I have written here? Yeah, when he moved on in the second round of the playoffs and they had the lead in the last 3 games against Boston, Bobrovsky allowed 11 goals and Boston won all last 3 games and they were eliminated. So, 42 games, give me a 2.5, 2.6 goals against, anything above .910 save percentage. This team will win with Bobrovsky and net doing that. But in terms of the playoffs, unless Bobrovsky somehow finds the fountain of youth and returns to Vezina Bob, which I will be the first one to say I was wrong, then we gotta put Spencer Knight. Spencer Knight has to be the guy, and that's the other thing. Q showed it during the playoffs. He's not going to play favorites. He's not going to play the contracts. He's going to play who's going to win games. And if we split games with these 2 guys, then the numbers are even close. you got to give Knight the call. That's my opinion, and obviously there's a lot of hockey to play in between then and now. But based on what I'm seeing here, unless Bobrovsky is absolutely tearing it up, Spencer Knight should be the guy in the playoffs. And even then, look, the year he won the Vezina, Bobrovsky in the playoffs had a 3.88 goals against and an 882 save percentage. Spencer Knight, get ready, brother. We are going to need you in the postseason because this team is making the postseason, and you're going to be the guy. You've got to be the guy. And with all due respect to Bobrovsky, know your role, man. 42 games. Give us 42 games, 2.5, and a 9-10, and then let the kid take the reins for the postseason. That was it. I appreciate all the support. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell. We are working on more guests. Can't guarantee anything, but we've got stuff in the iron there. Yesterday, I was going to have a fan interview up. Apologize about that. There were massive technical issues. I don't know if it was my internet, his internet. We're going to try it again at some point. I've got a couple collaborations coming up here on other people's channel. I think this weekend that might happen. I'll keep you busy with content, at least one a day. As soon as anything is happening, we're going to be bumping up to 2 and 3 videos a day. But right now, we're like I've been talking to a few of the hockey creators on DM, and we're all just like suffocating for content. We're like, please, somebody do something good. Like I said, Huberdeau saves a puppy. I want to make that video, all right? So, all right, guys, I'll see you again tomorrow.